Welcome everyone. In this video I will be reviewing the Sigma 28 to 70mm f2.8 medium range zoom lens for Sony mirrorless cameras. The whole video will be recorded on the lens itself, 4K resolution with a higher quality 422 10-bit codec. I will use autofocusing. It's a pretty capable camera, medium sensitivity, so if there are any issues, it might be the camera, might be the lens, or the combination of the two. Let's see how it goes. Let's start with the positives. And one of the big ones is the aperture. f2.8 allows you to do some interesting things. Right now we're at f9. You can see the background. And with the help of an ND filter, we go to 2.8. Much more blurry. Another benefit of f2.8 aperture is the improved low light performance. f2.8 aperture lets in twice as much light as f4 aperture, and for this shot I need 5000 ISO, whereas f4 aperture needs 10,000 ISO. The main reason why I got this lens is because it's the lightest f2.8 medium range zoom lens for Sony full frame mirrorless cameras. At 470 grams, this Sigma lens is lighter than the Tamron 28 to 75mm lens, which weighs 550 grams. 80 grams might not sound like a big difference versus the Tamron, but trust me, if you're using the camera for a whole day, you go hiking, you're working, you will feel it. You know, if you're holding the camera in one hand all the time, for instance, you do a lot of like handheld work, yeah, you will notice it for sure. And you know what, if you combine this lens with Sony a7C, that's gonna be an even lighter package.
So the 28 to 70 lens is great because the 28mm you could do landscape, you could do group shots, big groups, stuff like that. It's not good for real estate because it's not quite wide enough. You would want a 17mm for that. But as far as portraits go, 50mm is great if you're doing a group shot, you know, 3 people, 4 people. The 70mm is great if you're shooting a solo subject, and it's good compression, so it makes somebody look thinner as opposed to heavier, which a wider lens would add weight.
On the side of the lens, you have a switch between autofocus and manual focus. If you put it in manual focus, you can easily manually focus. The benefit of having the switch on the side is you don't have to use a shortcut button on the body. You can just flick the switch on the side of the lens.
This lens features the popular 67mm filter thread. So if you have a bunch of lenses with the same filter size, you could use the 67mm on all of them. Thusly, you'll only need one good ND filter for all your lenses.
So focus breathing with this lens is actually pretty well controlled, as you can see in this example that's happening right now. And here's another example, just because we can.
We're here on this crisp fall afternoon reviewing the weather gasket on this lens. The weather gasket is to prevent dust, wind, rain, what have you, from getting into the sensor.
This lens has good minimum focus distance.
Purple fringing is not an issue. I notice it sometimes on other lenses, but haven't seen it on this lens yet. Let's talk about the negatives, and thankfully there are not that many. In my opinion, the biggest negative is the plastic focus ring. After you use this lens for a while, you really get accustomed to that rubbery zoom ring, and it's really good. It's grippy and you can easily change the focal length, right? But the focusing plastic ring, it has good ridges, so there is some grip to it, but it's still plastic, and like my fingers are constantly slipping. Zoom barrel. Basically, when you are changing the focal length, zooming in or zooming out, the zoom barrel will actually come out from the lens and thus expose itself. There are 2 problems with that. If you're using a gimbal and you have everything balanced and then you're going to like 70 millimeters and the zoom barrel is extended all the way, it will change the center of gravity. The other negative is the exposure of the zoom barrel itself. Why is that bad? Well, let's say if it rains, or let's say somebody sneezes on the camera, or something flies from somewhere, dust, any kind of particles, and it gets on the zoom barrel and then you retract it back. I'm not sure if all of it like gets cleaned up when it's going back, like if there's any kind of, how is the sealing basically? Is it good, is it bad? I personally don't know that. So far, I didn't see any dust particles inside the lens, but let's see how it goes. For vlogging, I would use something wider than 28 millimeters. So I guess that's a negative for vlogging. But if you have a selfie stick, then of course it's wide enough. 28 millimeters. You can vlog with it. Goodbye, Anthony.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Mama.
So it's wide enough. If the conditions are right, you have a selfie stick and some distance. Yeah, but I like wider lenses. Still, it works. The real problem starts when you try to use active IBIS, and that introduces the crop. So you see, this is standard IBIS, this is active. That's gonna make things harder to do wide shots or vlogging. Well, this works. We're vlogging 28 millimeter, not wide enough. The lens doesn't have a lock option or feature, meaning that, let's say if you change the focal length and then you push against the lens, you can actually push the lens, front lens element back into the lens, and there is no lock button. So why is that a problem? Well, if you're transporting the camera and you had it set to a desired focal length, and if the camera is like bumping around, or when you're taking it out, you can change the focal length, and maybe that's gonna interfere with your filming day.
Here is an example of lens glaring. This lens does not have a glare problem, but this is an example of what it would look like if you encounter glare in the lens from the sun.
The conclusion. Well, this is a general purpose lens, 28 to 70 millimeters. You get good wide range and good portraiture. f2.8, so that's your premium aperture, great for low light, more bokeh. The lens is the lightest in this segment, so like medium zoom range, 470 grams, lighter than the Tamron. Popular 67 millimeter filter thread, good zoom ring, a lot of positives, great for travel, highly recommended.